Okay, so now we have our door in Unreal 4. It's not actually going to work. Okay, it's just in there as a static mesh. So if I was to play my game and walk up to my door, it wouldn't do anything. Okay, so what we have to do is we're going to have to turn this door from a static mesh into a blueprint. We can do that pretty easily by right-clicking on the door and create blueprint using that static mesh. I'm just going to save it into my folder, and I'm going to call it door underscore BP, and OK that. And you can see now it's created a copy of that door. It's got a darker blue line underneath it denoting that it is a blueprint, and it's also opened the blueprint editor. When that opens up, you'll see that there's kind of no nodes in this graph area, but we do have a default area where we can change the default settings for some of the components. And then if we go into the components, you'll see that we'll have our door. Now we've got our door, but what we also want to add in here is a trigger box. So if I go over here, you can see I've got this add component. I'll just type in box, find my box, I'll name it trigger. In my static nest, I'll also name that door. Just when we're in the graph editor, trigger and door will be there instead of static mesh and box. It's just easier to use. So my box, I'm going to grab in the viewport, and I'm just going to resize it so it covers the total area of the door, maybe a bit higher, and it's going to be quite wider than the door, probably about that, and probably about that length. So when we're in here, we're able to press the button and open it up. So we've got that set up now. We're going to do the graph or the visual scripting for it. This here area is context sensitive, so whatever you've got over here, basically when you right click will give you new actions over here. So for instance, I right click there, I've got nothing selected here, and I've just got add component. But if I click on my trigger and right click, you've got add event for trigger. So I click on that, go into collision, and I'm going to use this add on component begin overlap. So when I'm inside the trigger box, I'm going to add another one for the trigger. You'll notice there when I've created this here one, I've had to reselect my trigger. I'm going to right click again, add event, collision, and overlap. So basically what I want to do is drag this out and type in input. And I'm going to enable input when I'm inside the trigger box, so begin overlap. And then input again for this one, I'm going to disable input. Now it's asking for a player controller, so I'm going to drag one out here. I'm just going to type in player, get player controller. So it's either going to enable or disable input from the player controller. And I've just dragged this one over, so I'm just reusing the same player controller. So that's out of the way now. I can come over here and we can decide on what key we're going to use to trigger the door rotation. So I'm going to right click and hit E for my action button, and you can see there it'll just pop up. You can choose whatever key you want. So what we're going to have is when key is pressed, it's going to play an animation. That animation, if we right click and scroll down to the bottom, is going to be a timeline. You'll see add timeline down there. I'm just going to call that door rot. Okay, I'm going to double click on that. So this here is kind of like an animation timeline. We don't have any tracks in here at the moment, so I'm going to add a float track to this and just call it door rot also. And we're going to add in some keyframes for this. So I'm going to hold down shift and click down there. It's going to add a keyframe. I'm going to change that to 0 seconds with a value of 0. I'm going to go to my 1 second mark, hold down shift and add another one. Just type in 1 there and a value of 90. You'll notice that keyframe shoots away up, that red line's away up there. So I want to just click on this zoom to fit vertical, and I'll be able to see that at 0 seconds, at 0 seconds, my door is going to have a rotation value of 0, but at 1 second it's going to animate to 90. I'm just going to select both of these and right click them, and I'm going to go auto. Basically what this is, it'll give a smooth transition from opening the door to closing the door, so it won't be it won't look as robotic. And I'm going to change the length of this animation to 1 second. And that is that section done. And you'll notice now on my timeline, I've got a door rot that I can use. Now I could put this from pressed into play and maybe pressed in reverse, but that's not going to work that well. So what we want to do is we want to branch this off. So if I bring out my press node and type in branch, you'll see that it's a true or false value, and it's looking for a condition. So I'm just going to create a new variable here, and my condition is going to just be door tf as in true or false. I'm going to drag that in. I'm going to set it. I'm going to Control C, Control V that, just to duplicate it. And I'm going to drag another one in, and I'm going to get it. So my condition is going to be the door tf, and it's set to true by default. So what I want to happen is when I press E for the first time, it's going to go to true because that's set to default to true. And it's going to go to the set where I can change the state of this door tf. And you see that it's unticked there, that means it's false. So it's going to go to true, set it to false, and play the animation. So the next time I press E, it's going to go to the false one. We'll want to set it back to true and then reverse. So the next time that we press E, it's going to go back to the true value and then set that to false, and then loop around, loop around, loop around. Next thing I want to do is drag out my door rot, and I'm just going to type in rotation or ROT, and I'm just going to go make rot, and it's going to do the pitch, which is kind of the wrong angle. So I'm going to hold Alt and click on pitch there, and then drag this into my yaw, and that should work a bit better. And then I'm going to, from this return value, I'm going to type in rotation, and I'm going to get set actor relative rotation. Now this isn't going to update until I drag this update one into this set actor relative rotation, and it's going to get that relative rotation from this value. So if I save that, compile, I'm going to delete this door. I'm going to drag this door in, and you can see when I'm dragging this door in, it has my box and everything there. If I go over and press E on it, it's going to open, and it's also going to close. Okay. Now the problem with this is, if I rotated this around, placed it in my doorway, and press E, you can see it's going to snap there, and then it's going to rotate in this weird angle that we don't want. This is all because I've changed the initial rotation of the door. So it's kind of doing that snapping action because it doesn't know here that I've made that rotation. It's not combining that initial 90 degrees that I've done in the editor and combined it with this new rotation that we're doing in this blueprint. So what we're going to do is, we're going to create a new variable. We're going to call this door underscore ini for door initial, and we're going to change that. It might be set to boolean to start off it, but we're going to change it to rotator, and we're going to drag that in, and we're going to go set. Now we're going to set that at the beginning of the begin play, basically. So if I right click and go begin, I'll have this event begin play, and I can tag that in there. But what are we actually setting? So we're actually setting the rotation for that actor. So if I find rotation and I go get actor rotation, I can plug that in. So now this door NAI is set with this initial get actor rotation. So it doesn't matter what we initially rotate it in the actual editor. It should be able to get that now. All we have to do is combine it. So I'm just going to right click here and type in combine, and I've got combine rotators. So I'm going to combine this rotator with this door initial, and then I'm going to plug that into the new relative rotation. So now it's combining the initial rotation with the new rotation relative to this actual timeline. So if I combine and save that, and right click and go play from here, the door should now work as normal.